I personally wouldn't allow somebody to yell at me and call me stupid and all this stuff for being poor. Hey. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about financial gurus constantly berating you and telling you what to do. We're in a very vulnerable time when it comes to people's personal finances due to the stagnant wages we've had for 4 decades and housing costs going up, childcare costs going up, healthcare putting people in massive debt. This time is really interesting and precarious for a lot of us. So having so many people with their little gray backgrounds saying, yeah, I stopped drinking coffee and now I'm a millionaire. Really? Like, that's not what happened. You're not rich because you stopped putting jelly on your toast. That's not what happened. It's very easy to get pulled into these thought patterns and start to blame other people for their position financially. One of my favorite things to say about money is that money is not math. Money is a lot more things than math. Money is energy. Money is time. Money is labor. Money is resources. Money is fluctuation in the market. Money is so many different things. It's not just numbers. People who present it that way, who say, well, if you make this much an hour, then you should have enough for A, B, and C, and simply present formulas and hard numbers that are made up, it shows how detached they are from actual reality. Because yes, by the numbers, people should be able to sustain themselves in their livelihoods with low wages, but life doesn't work that way. Life isn't positioned that way. And also, poverty is an amalgamation of structures working together to form one system that allows for people to still be under that level. Poverty is not a personal choice. Your financial status is morally neutral, but the way that the United States frames finances, in many cases, people are led to believe that their financial state is related to their moral standing. And I feel like that's really wrong. So honestly, these guys are lying to you. They're lying to you when they say, well, if you just cut your hair at home, eat day-old bread, only fill up your gas tank in the morning times, or whatever crazy stuff that they say to you. They say these things because they put this stuff into ChatGPT and it spit them out a script. It's because they wrote some stuff down and they believe that logically this should work. They say these things to you because 9 times out of 9, they've never been poor. You get what I'm saying? I don't want to hear from someone who has 7 investment properties yelling at me about getting a large fry. That's personally not what I want to do. I don't think it's a benefit to people who are living in poverty to listen to people who are far removed from the reality of how this country treats poor people. Even if they had at some point been poor, if they're so far removed that they're denying the ways that people are handled because of their financial status, then they're already the wrong person to listen to. Like that whole thing that people love to say, oh, well, you see rich people, they're not wearing all these designer labels and showing off their wealth and da. Like, people are people, and people with a lot of money flaunt their money as well. They just do it in ways that don't signal to us because we're not on their financial level, but it signals to the people that are in their tax bracket. So they are doing the same thing that people that have lower income levels do. They just do it in a language that you don't speak. Like the whole story about Steve Jobs wore the same t-shirt for 20 years. He probably had about 60 of those, and they were $800 each. You know, minimalism doesn't fit everyone. And I understand that the illusion of minimalism is what draws a lot of people in to listen to these folks because you believe that that's what made them successful. But you wearing the same t-shirt for a week and a half is not what's going to make you successful in life. You continuing to push forward in your skills and learning more and progressing in your life is what's going to bring you forward. I just think it's better to seek out people who have some kind of understanding of what you're going through. You can't just tell every old person, hey, just eat rice and beans for a year and a half and then you can buy a house. That doesn't necessarily work for everyone and fit into their lifestyle. Also, you don't know if they're not already eating rice and beans. Most people, when they say these things about don't get fast food and don't drink coffee and cut your hair at home, like, babes, I already can't afford to get my hair done, can't afford to get coffee every day, and I have a hand-me-down car. So I already have these expenses not in my life, but I'm still struggling. You answer that now, right? So I think these people just kind of do such broad, sweeping statements because they genuinely aren't concerned with people being pulled out of poverty. They're concerned with people listening to them, which is whatever. Something that was really helpful for me to learn in the last few years is that I wasn't bad at managing money. I just didn't have any money to manage. Honestly, poor people are some of the most effective money managers you'll ever meet. I learned once I joined the military, once I had stable income, that I was like, oh, I actually have healthy money habits. I just didn't have any money to handle. And one thing that really helped me get really, really good with money is people sharing real numbers, not people saying, hey, if you hypothetically put 10% of your income, if you make $15 an hour, blah, 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 you should be able to afford this and that and that. That didn't help me. What helped me is people writing down their budget and saying, I pay X amount for my bills this month. I earn this amount of my paycheck that month. This is the amount of extra expenses that I didn't expect coming out this month. Those real numbers helped the wheels turn and everything clicked into place. Because I don't need hypotheticals and percentages and all these things. It's very helpful for a place to start if you don't know where to start. But when you're just throwing out hypotheticals, it doesn't seem real because it's so far removed. It's just like, I can never get to that point. I can never do that. That sounds unattainable. But if I'm seeing people who have real incomes that are similar to mine, paying real bills and seeing how it comes out, oh, okay, so you also have unexpected expenses come out sometimes and you found a way to account for that, or you also have bills that fluctuate in price and you found a way to account for that. Those are the kinds of things that actually helped me get really good with money, and that's one of the things that allowed for me to build up 6 months worth of expenses once I left the army and didn't have an income for 4 months. I think it's really helpful to think about the situation that you're currently in, and if you want to do better financially, listen to people who are able to understand where you are financially, but also understand what your economic status actually is. Someone who doesn't have to read it in an article to understand. Someone who actually has some experience, whether it be firsthand or working directly with people in those areas. I think that's the first thing that would be my advice to anyone that's trying to get better with money. Find people who truly understand your tax bracket. It doesn't have to be people in your tax bracket, but it does have to be people who have had experience with real people in those income levels. One of those people that I have followed and I still follow now, I still listen to anything she puts out, Tiffany Aliche, the Budgetnista. She is a wonderful, wonderful woman. I've been in her group, the Dreamcatchers, for a lot of years now. And she's written various books. I've read her books, and every time she's on anyone's show, I listen to her. I listen to her podcast. She is someone who is very honest and graceful the way she talks about herself and her past mistakes. And I think that's something that was endearing to me, because she would talk about her own poor choices in finances with a lot of grace towards her younger self. She wouldn't berate herself and say, oh, that was so stupid. But she will say, oh, I should have seen this, or I should have known better. But she doesn't talk badly about herself for making these decisions. She simply says, this is where I was and this is what I understood. And even though I learned certain things, I still chose to go this route. She gives herself a lot of kindness, and I think that's one of the reasons I was drawn to her, because that's also how she approaches her teaching. She approaches her teaching with a lot of kindness and understanding for people of where they are. So there's a lot of people that I listened to over the years, and I would listen to some things, and a lot of people I would just take the meat and leave the bones. And I think that's what is really helpful for if you're finding people to listen to when it comes to finances. Use a take the meat and leave the bones kind of situation. If there's some things that you feel are helpful for you, definitely benefit from those. And if there's some things that don't apply to you, then it's fine, because there are other elements in other people's teaching that will work for you. So I'm not going to name anybody, but I'm sure you found a bunch of different people. For some of them, their methods work for some people and some they don't. But I don't take that to mean that these people are discredited. I just take it to mean that that type of advice isn't for you, really. And I think that's the most helpful thing to understand, is that just because someone's information or teaching doesn't fit your life, it doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about. It simply means that they're not the person to help you. So I really hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that it gave you some insight on some ways that you can find helpful advice and throw out the advice that's just packaged to get views. If being shamed into making more money helps for you, then God bless you. But I personally don't like that approach. I personally wouldn't allow somebody to yell at me and call me stupid and all this stuff for being poor. Like, that's just not my ministry. If that's what works for you, then God bless you, honey. But I do hope that you find people that have some kindness and some grace and actual knowledge on how you can do well, and not just spouting off statistics and numbers for you. So anyway, hope you join me for my next one. Thanks for being with me today. I'll see you soon.